Thank you so much for joining us for our webinar today. This is our summer 2023 advising and registration for first-time first-year students. Like I said, we're really, we're really grateful that you could come join us today. So we're going to go ahead and just get started here. Let me go ahead and move us forward. So let's start with introductions. I guess I'll go ahead and start with myself. My name is Shannon Durbin. I'm the coordinator for the Advising Center here in the College of Natural Sciences and Mathematics. And let me go ahead and hand it over to my co-presenter, Cesar.
Hello, everyone. My name is Cesar Cervantes. I'm one of the pre-major advisors here. So nice to meet everyone. Glad that you're joining us today. And I'll hand it off to Tanya.
Hi, everybody. Good afternoon. My name is Tanya Poloyan. I am another one of the advisors that's going to be helping you this summer and in your first few semesters at CSULB. So welcome and looking forward to meeting all of you.
Thank you so much, Cesar. Thank you so much, Tanya. We'll go ahead and go over just a few housekeeping items here about our webinar today. So as you might have noticed, your video and microphone are disabled, and that's part of the webinar function. The purpose of this is to just make sure that we can have a nice video to present to you later on. That being said, we welcome your questions. You'll see that the Q&A feature is enabled. So as you're listening to the presentation and you think of questions, you're more than welcome to add those to the Q&A. We'll also have a moment at the end of the presentation to ask for more questions. So if you think of something during the presentation, throw it in the Q&A. If you think of it closer to the end, that's fine too. We do want to note that we're going to prioritize questions around the topics we're discussing today. So that means if there's something that's really specific to you personally about your records or just something that's really specific to your journey here at CSULB, those questions are better directed towards our CNSM advising email. We encourage you to, we'll put that email in the chat as well. We encourage you to reach out to that whenever you might have questions, and our advising team will get back to you with the specifics. So you're always welcome to reach out. But today we will be just, really focusing in on these key things around advisement and registration. And then, we are recording this, of course. And so the plan is that after we finish this recording today, give us a couple of days to make sure that our transcript for the recording is all nice and polished, and then we will post it to our Summer SOAR Guidance website. So you'll be able to review that recording, or if you know of some friends who weren't able to attend today, that's where they can find this information. So you won't have to necessarily be right here, right now, or if you are watching today and you've heard something, you can go back and review the recording there. And then the last thing we wanted to just touch on is, I'm sure you're receiving emails from all kinds of folks at CSULB. We will also be sending you updates with key information. We're going to try and not send you a billion emails, but we will send you key emails that have upcoming deadlines, resources, stuff that, it will be really helpful. Either you need to know it or it's a good thing to know. So, it's important to check both your primary email and then also start getting used to looking at your CSULB email as well, because when you begin with us in the fall, that's how we will be contacting you. So it's good to kind of get into the habit now. So moving forward from there, let's just kind of go over what we plan to discuss today. So as you know, we put on this webinar so we could discuss advisement and registration and how this compares to SOAR orientation. So kind of defining those differences and how those things kind of go together. We also wanted to highlight some items that you will want to complete before you do get registered later on this summer. And, just to kind of give you a heads up about some of the communication you can expect from our office in terms of your course registration. And then what you can expect during advisement and your registration date. And then just a few extra, next steps as you're planning to join us here in the fall. So just to start off, we wanted to highlight some of the key dates. Now, this is all information you can find on our Summer SOAR Guidance website, which we will include in the chat. So please don't worry, you don't have to memorize this slide right here and now. This is available to you 24/7 on our website. And what's even more handy about that is that it's, has links that you can click onto that will take you to more thorough and detailed information on each of these things. Let me just take a moment to talk through these items because they're all pretty important to make sure that you have a smooth entry into CSULB. So the CNSM First Year Advising Survey, we do have this linked on our website, our Summer SOAR Guidance website. You also would have received an email with a link to this. As you can see, that deadline is coming up next week. This is a really important survey. Takes maybe about 10 minutes of your time. So, get a cup of coffee, a glass of water, sit down, and just take a few moments to go through it. Why it's so important is we ask you for information about, have you taken any APs? Are you still waiting on those scores? Are they APs that go towards math or chemistry or other key foundation courses? So we're asking you about that. We're asking you if you plan to work while being a student. So we want to, the goal, the aim of this survey is not only to get to know you a little bit better, but to also make sure that when we're providing you course recommendations, that they are accurate and tailored to you specifically. The whole goal here is to place you appropriately in math classes and chemistry classes and other coursework that you need to not ever duplicate anything that you might have already satisfied in some other way, and to make sure that you're in a class that you're prepared to take. So that means we don't want to put you in a class where you're already totally prepared and you've gone beyond that material. Likewise, we don't want to put you in a class where you're underprepared. And, so we want to make sure that we're striking that balance. So please, you've got another week, but, put it on your calendar, do it tonight if you can do it tonight. If not, carve out a little time this weekend and just do that so we can give you the best possible course recommendations for the fall. The next thing is Math Alex, our math placement software or exam. So this is something that we spoke about in our placement webinar, which we had last week. That is already posted to our website. And in that webinar, we go over really specific details in terms of who needs to take ALEX. Is that even something that you need to take? Because some students might not need to take that particular placement. For other students, it might help them actually place a little higher when they're beginning this fall. Like I said, we're not going to really go into details on that today because we already did a full presentation all around math and chemistry placement. You can find that on our website. We'll put the link in the chat so you can see the details there. In addition to the webinar that we did on this, there's also links on the Summer SOAR Guidance website that specifically go through all the different ways students may place into math or chemistry. It's very detailed information, very clear, very concise, and it's we welcome you to review that. Obviously, after reviewing that, if there are any other questions you may have, reach out to us to our CNSM advising email, and we can help guide you. So we also, on your single sign-on, which if you haven't had a chance to hop onto your single sign-on for CSULB, you're going to want to go ahead and do that. There you will find a CNSM advising course on Canvas. So when you open up your single sign-on, you see a bunch of these little, what we call chiclets or little buttons. One of them is called Canvas. And on there, you're going to use that throughout your time at CSULB. But what you'll find there is a course that has to do with incoming first-year students. And what it'll do is it'll go over a lot of key resources, which will include how to get registered. So it'll take you through like what it looks like to go to your shopping cart on my CSULB Student Center. So it'll take you through all those steps for adding courses, how do you register and that sort of thing. It'll also talk about other key resources that can be useful to you while you're here. And then finally, it will go specifically into some of the resources and information specific to the College of Natural Sciences and Mathematics. So make sure you review that course. It'll give you a lot of helpful information. Trust me, it'll answer a lot of questions you may have. Like the math placement bullet here, we also have a chemistry placement. This was also addressed in our placement webinar, and it's, again, it may apply to some students. For some students, it may not. So we welcome you to review our webinar that goes into details regarding chemistry placement, and to view our Summer SOAR Guidance website, where you can also find really specific details about that. Lastly, we will be conducting our academic advisement and registration starting late July and going through early August. And in our upcoming slide, we'll show you what those dates are exactly. And then Summer SOAR, so SOAR on campus orientation. We have a registration date where you're getting registered for your fall classes, and we also have an orientation date, and those are on different dates. So in an upcoming slide, we're also going to talk about that. So let me go ahead and move us forward. Okay. So one thing I wanted to do really quickly before we go into this is I wanted to share with you our Summer SOAR Guidance website, the one I've mentioned about 12 times already. So let me see if I can go ahead and share that for you here. Caesar, are you seeing the website as well? Excellent. Okay, so this is the website I'd mentioned. As you can see on the right side here, there's the webinar series. So that's where you can look up previous webinars. So this webinar, for example, 2 or 3 days after today will be posted there. There you can also see a link to chemistry placement. So when you click on that, it goes into all these details. Did you take AP? What other coursework have you taken in the past? So you can go into, I won't spend much time here. Like I said, you can spend that time kind of taking a look. But I just want you to know that this is where you find that information. There's a math placement link as well, where it goes into those details. So please take the time to evaluate those resources. On the main page on the Summer SOAR Guidance for incoming CNSM first-time, first-year students, you'll see first off the webinars we're offering this summer. And then this link will also take you to our past webinars. As you saw on the previous slides, some of the key deadlines and the activities that are associated with those deadlines. And then a more thorough kind of walk through all the steps. Some of these dates have already passed, like, your commitment to enroll and things like that. But as you look through these, you'll kind of see those key dates. You'll see links to the SOAR experience. And then down here, you'll see all the dates that that students will be registering for their first classes. So these are the various Summer SOAR dates. For both registration, so the virtual registration that you'll do with our office, with our advisors, and then your on-campus SOAR orientation. So spend some time with this. It has a lot of key links to other resources that go into a lot of great details that can be pretty helpful for you. So going back to our slides here, the reason I jumped over there is first of all, I wanted you to see that website, but also so you didn't say, oh my gosh, all these dates, I need to write this all down right now. You don't have to write it all down right now. Just jump on our website and you can see all that information there. So what we just wanted to, articulate here is that you have a registration date and you have an orientation date, and they are linked. So based on when you sign up for your for SOAR, you'll have a registration date that's really specific. So that means that for whatever date you sign up for, that's the date you show up not only to your registration, but also to your SOAR orientation. And so you can see along these lines. So if we look at the first one, Wednesday, July 26th, that's linked to Monday, July 31st for your orientation. So registration on the 26th, orientation on the 31st. Registration being virtual, and orientation being on campus. It's an on-campus experience. As you can see from the dates, the registration date happens prior to your orientation date. So you will have virtual appointments with our advising team, and we will be taking you through registration and guiding that process for you virtually. And we will be providing detailed information on what that's going to look like later on in the slides here, but we'll also be providing that information in emails. So don't worry, you're going to have all the notes you need from us, both in this presentation, and then you'll be receiving emails in the coming weeks that will provide you details too. As you can see, the SOAR orientation date, though it's linked, it might come like right after your registration, like one day after, or it might be up to 5 days. It kind of depends if there's a weekend thrown in there or a few other things. It might be a few days later. So just make note of which dates and mark those in your calendar. And then as we've said a billion times already, if you need other additional resources, and who can't use a few additional resources, check out our SOAR Summer Guidance website, where you can find these dates plus a lot more. And anything that you come across where you're still like, I don't know if this really answers my question, or that's great, but I need to know a little bit more on this topic. That's when you reach out to our CNSM advisement email, so that we can help guide you through that question, and if helpful, point you in the direction to get your answer answered. So with that, I'm going to take us to our next slide, and I'm going to hand it over to my co-presenter, Caesar. Thank you so much, Caesar.
Yeah, thank you for that, Shannon. Okay, so now we're going to jump into what I think a lot of us are here to just get more information on, and that's going to be your registration, how that's going to work, orientation, all that. So first, this is just a quick little reminder again, that CNSM advising survey. Please, please, please make sure that this is something that you've turned in. Again, if it's something where you should have received it by email, if you haven't, check out our CNSM SOAR website. It's linked there. So if you have any questions, make sure you fill that out, because that's very helpful for us, because that helps us build your schedule, build your courses. It gives us a little bit more insight than just your grades. So that's another key piece that we use in order to build your schedule when we do end up sending you your course recommendations. So again, that's June 15th, and that's going to be next Thursday. Next is going to be on June 30th. It's going to be the Math Alex. So again, if you're a bit unsure, if you need to take it, if your AP credit, transfer credit, whatever credit, college credit that you're bringing in, if you have any, do you still need to take it? Again, I'm gonna refer you back to the webinars that we held last week. Ton of great information, very in-depth. If you have a very specific question, check that out. And again, make sure that these tests, I think another thing that I do want to highlight is, don't assume that you can complete it the day before. Give yourself ample time to not only take the material, but also improve the material if you're not happy with a particular score, if it places you in a lower math than you think you can get. Again, like Shannon was mentioning, we don't want to run into that issue of you're placed in a lower math class that you don't need, which could effectively mean more time towards your graduation date. So again, that's something that we want to avoid. So make sure that the Math Alex is something that's on your radar. And again, that's June 30th. After that, going into July, so July 7th, that's when the SOAR advising, the Canvas course, that's when we want you to complete it. Again, this is something that's full of resources, full of information. So if you have any questions from now up until your appointment, your registration appointment with us, check that out, because I think if you go through it, it's very thorough, it's very in-depth. It is a lot of information, but it is a lot of helpful information that ideally can answer a lot of the questions that you might be asking in the Q&A and emails. So we definitely encourage you to check that out. And again, July 7th is the deadline to finish that Canvas course. And then finally on July 9th, we have the Chemistry Alex. And again, this assessment is if needed by your major. So again, if you're a bit unsure of, hey, I'm a bio major, do I need this? Hey, I'm a math major, do I need this Chemistry Alex placement? Again, check out our website. It has a very detailed breakdown if you belong to a particular major, do you need chemistry? If so, go ahead and enroll in the Chem Alex, so on and so on. If you don't need to worry about it. Again, check out our webinar. It has a ton of information. Tim goes very in depth in that. So if you have any questions on that, check that out. So we can go on to the next slide, Shannon. All right. So communication about receiving your registration appointments, sign up, when you'll get your course recommendations, because I know I've received a ton of emails on this, and rightfully so. Like, I understand that everyone wants to sign up for that class, have that figured out so they can feel that, relieve that stress. So 2 dates that we're going to be highlighting. First is Friday, July 7th. That's when you'll be signing up for your advising appointment. So again, these are going to be 30-second time slots allotted to you, where we'll be supporting you, helping you guide you. And again, these will be over Zoom. So they're going to be virtual appointments where you'll be able to register for your classes, bring any questions that you have regarding your major requirements or any other particular issues that you've ran into while you were sort of figuring out, your student portal. So again, Friday, July 7th is when we'll open up that registration and sign up. So again, this is different from your registration date. This is just going to be the time slot. So think of it like, hey, I'm gonna sign up at 8 a.m. because I want to sign up really early. So it's going to be on that day that's tied to your orientation dates that Shannon mentioned previously. And then at some point between then up until when your actual registration advising date is, that's when you'll get your course recommendations. And we'll go more in depth, a little bit more as we go along in the PowerPoint, but you will be receiving a PDF file of your course schedule. So again, I know everyone's really, really anxious of, hey, which classes do I need to take? I don't know where to start. We're going to handle fall as well as spring, so this is something where I want everyone to sort of breathe a little bit, because we're going to make sure that you're in the right classes, that you're taking what you need to be taking, and, trying to ensure that the chemistry, the math, all these placements are the correct placement for you, and that you're going to be making that satisfactory progress. Okay, so we can go on to the next slide, Shannon. All right, so a little bit more in depth on what's actually going to be happening on those particular days. So the July 7th, when we open up that registration appointment sign up. So like I mentioned earlier, you're going to be signing up for a 30-minute time slot to be getting some support on registering for your classes, asking questions. So we definitely encourage you, if you have any questions, bring them to this appointment, and you'll be seeing there will be not only the staff advisors, so myself, Tanya, Shannon will be there, but we'll also be having peer advisors. And these are students that have already trained and can support you and help you register for your classes. So it is also recommended that students add classes to your shopping cart. So we definitely and highly encourage you to sort of play around with the enrollment system, add a class, drop a class, swap some courses, really just get familiar with the catalog that's there. That way you have that practice. So when the day comes, it's as smooth as it can be. Obviously we may run into some issues, but that's something that we can figure out as we get to it. But really what we want you to do is get familiar with the process, understand how to sign up on your own, and have that, feel a lot better with that system. So again, these will be over Zoom, but we also will have some limited in-person appointments, but this is going to be upon request. And if you're interested in having a in-person appointment, please email our CNSM Advising email address, and then we can get back to you and sort of see what we can come up with and see what we can work out with. But again, that July 7th registration sign up is going to be for a 30-minute time slot on the day of your registration appointment. So again, if let's say, for example, it was on July 8th or July 28th, then you'll sign up for a particular time slot on July 28th. Okay, so we can go on to the next slide, Shannon. All right, so during that time, like I mentioned earlier, that's when you'll be receiving your course recommendations. And this is something where things such as your CNSM source survey, that is something that is going to be very helpful for us because it's something that's going to help us build your schedule as we sort of take your grades, your high school courses that you've taken, and sort of build a schedule that's, again, like I said, not just your grades, but taking into account, your commute time, if you are commuting, if you're on campus, if you're working, how many units you want to take, what you think your career that you want to get into. All these factors go into play when we're making your schedule. So again, you'll be receiving a PDF schedule at some point between July 10th to July 25th. You'll be receiving a PDF schedule of your fall 2023 courses. So along with that, you'll also be getting information on how to read your schedule, how to register for courses, how to look up classes. And it's also going to be sort of an invitation for our July 20th webinar. So at this webinar, and if you haven't done so already, I would highly encourage you to register for it. We're going to be going through, the process of actually enrolling for classes, how it's going to look like. That way, you feel a lot more comfortable going into it, and you don't have this sort of sense of fear of like, hey, I'm not sure where to start. We're trying to make sure that you're as comfortable with the system as you can be. Another thing that I do want to highlight is make sure that you review your course recommendations before your registration. So obviously we're human. There could be a mistake that we make where, hey, let's say you took an AP course and it was just an oversight that we didn't see, and you're like, hey, I got credit. That things like that can happen. So it's definitely and highly encouraged that you make sure that you look at your major specific requirements. And that is on our CNSM Advising website. Go ahead and just get familiar with your particular major and what classes you need in order to graduate. So make sure that that if you need to take a bio class, that fall schedule has a bio class. If you need to take a chemistry course, a math course, that schedule has something. And if it doesn't have that, bring it to your appointment, let us know. That way we can fix it and make sure that you're in the correct classes. So again, some of it is going to be on you to sort of get familiar with your major, understand what it takes, the class that you need to take, and then from there, we can work together to make any adjustments as you see fit. Okay, we can go on to the next slide. Oh, one more thing. We also want to stress and highlight that we do realize that some students may want to sort of deviate from the schedule, like, hey, I don't want to take this class. It's not a class that is interesting to me, so on and so on. We highly encourage you for that fall semester to take the courses as recommended. That way you're in good academic standing as a CNSM pre-major. So without going too in depth into why that is, just know that there are certain timelines in place for students to complete certain milestone and major courses. So this is why we want students to take a particular class during a particular semester. That way you don't fall too far behind and you're making ample progress on it and you stay in good academic standing. Okay, now we can go ahead, Shannon. All right, so again, in order to make sure that you're as comfortable as you can and familiar with the classes that you're going to be getting, this is going to be what we're going to be sending you. So at the top, and I'm going to go over this very, very briefly. At the top, it's really just going to be some of your basic information, some of your information on your major, the advisor that prepared this. So again, this is something where if you see any mistakes, just let us know. Again, it could be an honest mistake, but again, this is going to be sent and it's going to be individualized for you. So the top, again, like I said, pretty basic information on the student. When we get towards the middle of this actual page, that's when you start seeing, your actual courses. So as you can see, it's divided by course 1, course 2, course 3, so on and so on. So depending on how much units, you indicated that you want to go full-time, part-time, this is how we're going to organize your schedule. Now, the classes, as you can see, are ordered from top to bottom. And usually these classes are ordered from sort of importance. So your math courses, your science courses are going to be the courses that we want you to make sure that those are courses that are very, very important. As we keep moving down, they get sort of less important, but I do want to stress that that doesn't mean sort of ignore these classes at the bottom. Everything is equally as important. So for example, we can see English 100B on here. That does not mean because it's in the middle, hey, I'm gonna pay less attention to my English class I'm gonna get a C and I'm gonna get by because I'm focusing on my math 119 course. That's not what we're saying. We're just saying is that every class you should be striving for an A. It's just that these classes at the top are your major courses and they keep going down in, importance as you go on to your GE classes, supplemental classes, things like that. So again, pretty straightforward things here. It'll have the class name, it'll have, sort of the days, the class number, location. That way it's very, very convenient and you know what exactly you need to take. Towards the bottom, you'll see some AP credit, transfer credit, things like this. So if you bring in any of that college credit, then that's things where you'll see it here. Now do note that some of your AP scores may or may not show up on here. Specifically, if you have an AP score and you let us know like, hey, I took an AP score, I took an AP test and it's not showing up here. Usually we might not indicate it on there if it's a score of less than 2. If it's less than 2, it's something where you unfortunately didn't get credit for it. So we might not put it on there. Okay. And then towards the right-hand side of the page where you'll see the comment section, that is where we can indicate a couple of things, and these are going to be notes from your advisor. So again, what you see here, it says option to take ASAM 100B, these other classes in place instead of English 100B. So this is something where we definitely want you to pay attention to. For as you can see for course 4, English 100B, these are other courses that you can enroll in. If for some reason you look at English 100B, you say, you know what, that's something that's not interesting to me, but that CHLS, the Chicano Latino Studies class, that sounds a lot more interesting to me. I think I'll do a lot better. You have that option. So again, make sure that you're looking at the comments and that you're paying attention to what's on there. Another thing that you might see that's very, very common is you'll see that kin course for course 6. You might see something like that and be like, I don't know what that is. That is kinesiology course. Think of it as sort of as a PE, a physical activity course. And these are courses sort of that we want you to take to sort of just supplement your class, or we want you to hit a certain unit load. So again, this is the form that you're going to be receiving with your classes. Again, it's going to be individualized and personalized for you, your units, and your circumstances, your situation, and what you've indicated on your source survey. So again, make sure that you're filling out that CNSM advising survey. That way we have as much information as we can as possible to make sure that you're not only in the correct courses, but that it's a suitable fall schedule for you. All right, we can go on to the next slide. All right, so then again, a little bit more in depth on what you can expect on the day of the advising and registration date. So if you already have access to your My CSULB account, you might see that there's a hold on your account. So that hold will actually be lifted at 9 a.m. to allow us to be able to enroll in your classes. So again, when you go to your time slot, so again, let's say 10 a.m. Then at 10 a.m., that hold will at 9 a.m., that hold will no longer be on your account. So then when it comes to 10 a.m., you'll be able to enroll in your courses and there shouldn't be any issues. So when you actually come to the Zoom meeting, you're going to be going to the waiting room, and then from there you'll be admitted and greeted by one of our peer mentors. So we can actually go to the next slide, Shannon. And then from here, you'll be taken into a one-on-one breakout room with either one of the advisors, one of the staff advisors like myself, or you're going to be supported by one of your peer advisors. Now, do note that you have access to both of us. So if there's a question that you ask, for example, the peer mentor, and they don't have a response for you, they can't answer it, you can just they can go ahead and call us and we can go ahead and troubleshoot, the question. So again, you have access to both of us. Don't think that, hey, I got this peer mentor, it's not going to be as, I'm not going to get as much help or my questions are going to be answered. You have access to all of us. So rest assured. As well as once you're registering for your classes, again, I encourage you to bring your questions. Having already gone through your My CSULB account, having already added these classes to your shopping cart, come into the registration appointment really ready to just have everything and have it be as smooth as possible. So by the end of the time of our appointment, we sort of are expecting you to already have finalized your schedule. That way you're locked in. You already know what your fall schedule is going to be looking like, and that you leave without that stress on your shoulders. And then finally, at the end of the day of that day, your registration hold is going to return by your account at 10 p.m. So just keep that in mind. Okay, we can go to the next slide. All right. So again, that was something that was very, very brief. It's something where rest assured that your courses are, your fall schedule is going to be sent out to you in around July. So just keep an eye on both your personal email, your CSULB email, and make sure that you get that schedule. Make sure you're turning in, your SOAR advising survey, your CNSM advising survey, complete the Canvas course, all these things. And then I highly encourage you, if you haven't done so already, attend our BTXP Learning Communities webinar that we're going to be having. Again, this is something, if you're interested, we're going to be doing what we call learning communities. So if you're interested in this sort of cohort model, where you're going to be taking classes with the same group of students, you're going to have opportunities to engage inside the classroom, outside the classroom, all these things. If that's something that sounds very interesting to you, I highly encourage you to go and get more information on what that's going to look like and how that's going to be implemented into your fall schedule. So again, that's Wednesday, June 21st, and then Thursday, July 20th. Definitely join us if you're having any issues with registration. If you're having, you want to just sort of see a hands-on guide on how to register, I highly encourage you to attend. And again, both of these are going to be over Zoom, so I highly encourage you to attend. All right, I think that should be it. So now we will actually be jumping into our Q&A portion with Tanya.
Hi, everybody. Thanks so much, Caesar, for all that wonderful information. I'm just going to cover some of the questions that are already in the Q&A. If you think of anything, please feel free to throw it in there. This is your opportunity. So, and if there's anything that we don't get to today, feel free to also email us with your question. If any of the questions are, like Shannon mentioned, a little bit specific to you, then we will direct you to the advising email. So the first question, when can first-time freshmen start registering for their classes? So we talked about this in the presentation. And so just to kind of share, I'm going to share my screen. That's okay. Here we go. Okay. So here's our website that has, Shannon showed you earlier, but this has all of the information that was in this PowerPoint. So please, please, please take a look at it. And so, like we mentioned, the webinars here a bunch of times, these important deadlines. Here's the link to the survey that is due on the 15th. So if you haven't done that, that's on the website. You can just click on that and it's going to take you to the survey. In terms of when you're actually going to start enrolling, the first registration date that we have available for students to sign up for is July 26th. And that is linked to the orientation, which is on campus for July 31st. So reading it across is the way to go. So that should answer the question, I think. I want to jump back to this. So somebody also asked about the CNSM Academic Advising course. And so to get to the advising course, which is different from the survey. So this information here has the link, and then the course is on your beach board. So I'm pretty sure it migrated over to Canvas, but when you log on to your single sign-on, you may or may not have all of these chiclets the way that I do, but you would just go ahead and click on Beach Board Canvas, and that's going to take you to where you need to go. So that should get you to the CNSM Academic Advising course. You can complete it, get all that great information. Someone asked about the holds on their account. So you'll see that you have a SOAR hold and an academic advising hold. The SOAR hold will be lifted after you complete your orientation. The academic advising hold, like Caesar mentioned will be lifted at 9 a.m. on the day of your registration. I'm gonna stop sharing. And then at the end of the day, it's going to come back onto your record. So you're going to see that hold. All first-time, first-year students are going to have that hold throughout your first semester, and you'll get it again your second semester. And that's because you have some mandatory advisement requirements. And so it's definitely a good idea to connect with your advisor, especially in the first couple weeks if you're having any trouble with your schedule, because you will have that hold on your record, so you can't make any changes to your schedule after you register for your classes on your registration day. And so that's why we want to make sure that by the end of that registration date, you are happy with your schedule. It's a schedule that is achievable and good for you, and it's realistic. So we'll probably talk more about that in the kickoff webinar, but just want to mention that. So yeah, SOAR hold will go away, advising hold will go away for you to register, and then we'll come back on at the end of the day. The shopping cart where you can select your classes is on your My CSULB. So you can actually see a detailed how to register video. I posted the link and I'll repost it again so that you can see. But after you go onto your single sign-on, everything's through single sign-on, you're going to click on your My CSULB account, and then you're going to click on Enroll, which is on the left side. It's like a little button. So here's the video. Please feel free to watch it. Pretty helpful to show you how and what to do. So hopefully that answered your question. Did you say students should try adding courses on their own before the advising appointment, and registration for advising appointment starts on July 7th? So yes and yes. So we do recommend that you try adding the classes on your own. I think it would be helpful to, like I mentioned, view those videos just so that you have an idea of what to do and can be somewhat autonomous and don't have to wait on an advisor or a peer mentor to help you. Definitely try to get familiarized with the system early, and that way on your actual registration day, it'll be a little bit smoother for you. So we definitely encourage you to do that, and you should have enough resources to help guide you on that between the videos and that advisement course that's on Beachboard/Canvas. And yes, on July 7th, you'll have the opportunity to sign up for a advisement appointment, which will be 30 minutes. And that's going to be actually on your registration day. So you can get help with registration on that specific day. It's not mandatory. So if you feel like you got it on your own, that's totally fine. You do not have to sign up. We're here to help you. So if you need the assistance, please do sign up. Again, not mandatory, but we're here if you need us. And the first time sometimes is kind of stressful. And if you run into any issues with registration, that can also be a little stressful. So we want to make sure the process is as smooth as possible. Let's see. So the question related to the University Honors Program, since it is kind of specific, I'm going to leave that one for Tim to answer. It looks like he's typing an answer, but basically we do work with the Honors Program to make sure that you have a schedule that meets the requirements for both your major and for the Honors Program. Do you have to complete the Canvas course? Yes, definitely encourage you to do that. If we have our advising date, where can we find our time? So on July 7th, when we send you that sign up, you can sign up for a specific time slot. Since your hold's lifted at 9 a.m., you can, starting at 9 a.m. on your registration day, you can start enrolling in your classes. You don't have to wait till your appointment. And in fact, it's better if you actually try to register before your appointment. That way, if there are any issues that we can work out together, we can do that. And then let's see. So some questions about deadlines. How do you know what classes to shop for and show your registration day? So you are going to submit that survey by June 15th. And that is going to help us know what credit you potentially have from a community college or any AP credit. And we're going to use that to actually build your course recommendation. So we're not actually going to give you a specific schedule, depending on if you're in a learning community or not, but you will actually get the courses, you'll see which courses they are, and then you'll get to choose your days and times and build your schedule on your own based on what works for you. So that should answer, how do I know what classes to add? So you don't know now because we still need to get through those surveys, build those schedules, but we will be sending them out as soon as possible, and it'll be based on when you signed up for registration. So those students who signed up for an earlier registration day will get their schedules sooner. Let's see, I'm gonna list some of these. Okay. Are classes on a first come, first served basis, or do students who show up on later days have an equal chance on getting certain classes? So this is a great question. If you are registering a little bit later in the summer, sometimes with GE courses, it can be a little bit challenging to get your first pick. So we definitely encourage you to be flexible because all of the students who are coming in through the summer are basically registering after all continuing students have already registered for classes. So students who are currently attending registered in April of this year for the fall semester. So now these students are taking different courses than you, so there's not a whole lot of competition there, but we definitely want you to be flexible when you're planning your courses. If your first choice with the professor that you found online is not available, pick the next best choice. With your GE courses, there are lots of different options you can take. So usually we can find a different one if a class gets full. For your CNSM courses, like your math and science courses, our department does a really amazing job of making sure that there's enough seats for everyone. And if some courses fill and they shouldn't be filled, we work on that too. So we make sure that we open up some seats if that's possible. And like if there's actual physical space in the class for more students. But we do a really good job of making sure there's enough seats for everybody. So not to worry, we will definitely find a good schedule for you. But like I said, definitely want you to be flexible and be patient with yourself during that process, patient with us, so we can, like I said, make sure it all runs smoothly. So the hold doesn't affect the shopping cart. No, your hold is not going to affect you putting courses in your shopping cart. It's just going to affect your enrollment. So all of those holds are going to block enrollment. When will we get an email with our schedule and class to add? I believe we will be sending those out. Let me just double check here. So July 10th through the 25th, course recommendations and registration information. So that's when you will, between those dates, July 10th and 25th is when you will get your recommendations emailed to you. And again, that's depending on when you signed up for your registration. Okay, wow, you guys have so many questions. This is great. I was just curious about when students should send in their AP score reports. Send them in as soon as possible. Send them in today. Send them in tomorrow as soon as possible. And definitely make sure you get those in. I do believe there's a deadline. If someone could help me with that. I want to say it's in July. But I'll circle back around to that one in a second. What do we do if you have not received our scores for our AP tests yet? This is also a great question. So if you haven't received your score, when you are doing the survey, you want to put a P for pending on the score so that we know that you took the exam and that you potentially do have credit. that will help us place you in the appropriate courses or help us not place you in the course. So like if you have English literature or language pending, then we won't recommend that you take an English class your first semester because you may have credit for it. So we will put you in like a communications course or in a critical thinking course instead. So yeah, make sure you report all of your scores on that survey if you have them. If you don't have them yet, you can indicate that the scores are still pending. Are we able to reschedule for the advising and registration? You can, I believe, but you would have to also change your orientation day since they are linked. So I believe you can change that on the SOAR website. Let me just go to that really quick. I'm just going to put these FAQs from the SOAR website. This might be helpful for you guys. And if you have any specific questions about SOAR, you can also reach out to them directly. Their email is soar at CSULB.edu. So I put that in the chat for you guys as well. Do we have to make a payment to enroll in classes? In terms of financial aid, we don't typically handle financial aid questions. We know like some general information, like students must be enrolled in 12 units to get their full aid. If you don't get financial aid, then there are specific deadlines that you have to make sure you pay your tuition by. So I will also find that website for you so you can take a look. Let's see, tuition and fees. So I'll put this in the link in the chat for you as well. Okie dokie. Okay. So I got these questions down. Okay, I got this one. It looks like you guys have a lot of questions about placement. So please, please, please go to the recording. We had a whole webinar just on placement. So if you missed it, we definitely want you to have that info. That's why we put it on our website for you. The link I put in the chat probably like a few times. So maybe go through there. The recording is on the summer series webinar website. So take a look at that. You just have to scroll down a little bit, but you'll see the whole recording there, and that should help you figure out the placement information. There's also links in the chat to the math and chemistry placement websites. If after you've looked at all those resources, you still are not sure and you still have questions, like I said, please email us. You can email us at CNSM-advising@CSULB.edu, and I'll put that in the chat for you guys as well.
Tanya,
yeah.
can I jump in real quick?
Yeah, please.
I also wanted to just encourage everyone to, like I mentioned in the presentation, definitely check out the major specific courses that you want to. So essentially, these are roadmaps that I think a ton of you would definitely want to look at, because it gives you essentially a guide and a visual representation of what you're going to be taking in terms of when you're going to be taking it, with which courses. So I think it's going to be a really good just visualization for you to see of, okay, I'm going to be taking chemistry with math. Obviously, there's going to be some nuances depending on your placements, things like that. There's a million different variations, but just a general idea of if I was on a 4-year path, this is what it's going to look like. So I think that's also something that can be very helpful if you're still having some questions on if my major needs it. If you see a chemistry class, then yeah, you would have to go and enroll for the Chem Alex, for the math, if you're going to be taking a calculus course. So definitely just encourage that. I'll put that in the chat right now.
Okay, I think we got to all the questions. If you do have other questions, please do email us and check out all those resources that we sent you. You should be able to see all the links in the chat. Maybe go ahead and open those up. And without, let's see, we got one more question. I couldn't hear you, but do I have to do the SOAR course in Canvas? Yes. yes, please do. Okay, all right. I will go ahead and pass it back to you, Shannon.
Tanya, thank you so much for answering these questions. And Caesar, thank you so much for sharing really wonderful, detailed information today. And thank you for spending some time with us, coming by to ask these terrific questions. And this is just the beginning of our conversation. So like we've said, we really encourage you to, first stop is that Summer SOAR guidance website where you're going to find links to almost everything. But beyond that, as you're looking through, looking through those resources and thinking about the fall, as you, if you come up with questions, you reach out to us. Please reach out to us at our CNSM advisement email. That is also something that you can find on our website. And if you're having any trouble grabbing those links today, a quick Google search for CNSM Advising Center will get you exactly where you need to go to find all of those resources. So yes, thank you all very much for spending some time with us, and congratulations on your admission to CSU Long Beach. We can't wait to meet you and work with you, and have a wonderful, wonderful evening. Thank you so much.